Hello, kids. So before this whole thing happened, we had left off with chapter 12. So that's what I'm going to read today. Miss Minton will send you questions to go to the chapter. So just do what you will normally do where you in class. Okay. Chapter 12. That dog won't hunt no more. Birmingham was like an oath. That first night, I couldn't sleep at all. Me and Bai had to share a bed, and we both were sweating like two pigs. It got so hot that Byron did not even keep a sheet on himself to make sure that I did not accidentally touch him in the night. He finally slept on the floor because he said it was a little bit cooler. When I got up, Byron was gone. I looked out of the window into the backyard, and Bai and Dad and Mr. Robert were standing under a great big tree with a dog. I went to the bathroom real quick, did my morning scratches, and then ran out to be with the guys. Morning, Kenny. Morning, Dad. Morning, Mr. Robert. Morning, Bai. Byron just grunted, then said, "Man, you gotta quit drinking so much water. You sweated up the whole bed last night. I ain't sharing the bed with your leaky little butt." And then he looked at Dad, with your leaky little self again. Mr. Roberts said, "You boys will get used to the heat." Dad petted the dog and said, "He's too old to hunt." "Oh yeah, that dog won't hunt no more. He's just like me, lost at the sire." Both of us got to the point where we just could not pull the trigger. Both of us got to be just like Joe Louis towards the end. Remember his last fight, Daniel? Remember how Joy just walked around the ring waving the left fist like a threat? He just couldn't throw it. He just could not pull the trigger no more. His mind told him to do it, but his body will not cooperate. That's me and Toddy. There's times at night that I hear him howl, and I know that he's dreaming about being back in the woods. But both of us know that's gone. Mr. Robert bent down and rubbed the dog's head. "Yes, son, in his day, this was the best coon dog in all Alabama. He used to get $100 just to stud him." Byron rubbed the old gray, nasty looking dog's head too. $100? Man, yeah. Me and Toddy saved each other's lives. Hate seeing him get so old. Judging by the way that Mr. Robert looked, I bet the dog was saying the same thing about him. How do you save his life? Well, you ever been coon hunting? No, sir. Well, there ain't too many animals wilder or tougher than an old coon. Most people think you just chase them up a tree and pop them, but that ain't half the story. Toddy's trailed this coon all the way out to this lake, and the coon went in the water. Now, most of the time, a dog will stop right at the water. I know better than to go in, but Toddy must have dove right in after that coon. He must have been half a mile ahead of me when I heard him holler and then get real quiet. Well, what happened? The coon got him in the water and held his head under until he drowned him. I stopped believing this junk right there. A raccoon drowning a dog? I looked at Bai and Dad, but they both were believing what Mr. Robert was saying. Dad said, "I've heard about raccoons doing that." "Oh yeah, Toddy here is the living proof." Byron said, "If he drowned, how come he ain't dead?" Well, when I finally got to the lake, I seen the coon going out one way and Toddy nowhere in sight. And I knew what happened. I dove right in that water and started looking for him. Took me only 1 minute. I dragged him back to shore, turned him upside down to let the water run out of him, and held his mouth shut and breathed right in his nose. He kicked a couple times, but then came to. Byron said, "Man, that's just too much. That's cool." all I could think of was that Mr. Robert was probably the only human being who'd ever put his mouth on a dog's nose. That was pretty cool. I asked Dad, "When do we eat?" "Kenny, you're the only one who hasn't eaten already. Your mother and grandmother are in the kitchen. Go on in." And I went back inside. Even before I got in, I could hear Mama saying that Birmingham was not anything like what she remembered. Her favorite saying got to be, "What's this? And how long has this been like that? And when did that happen? And what do you do like this? Why do you do this like that?" And most of all, "Oh, Mama." Grandma Saints thought Mama was hilarious and cracked up every time that Mama got upset or worried about something that she did not remember or did not like. Grandma Saints must have seen The Wizard of Oz a million times, because every time that she laughed, it sounded just like that Wicked Witch of the West. Now pause for a second. You got several examples of figurative language in this sentence. You have an alliteration, which is Wicked Witch of the West, which is also a what? It's also a allusion, right? Because it alludes to a movie that has nothing to do with the story. And it's also a simile, because it's comparing the laughter to that of the Wicked Witch of the West. So you got 3 for 1 right there. At first, her laugh was so scary that whenever me and Joy heard it, we wanted to go get behind something or someone. But after a while, we got used to it. It took us even longer to get used to the southern style of talking. Man, Grandma Sands and Mama would get yakking to each other, and we could only understand half of the things that they said. The smell of bacon dragged me right into the kitchen. Mama, Joy, and Grandma Sands were sitting at the little skinny kitchen table yakking. "Morning, Kenneth. Morning, Mama. Morning, Joy. Morning, Grandma Sands. You sleep okay?" It was real hot. Joy was sitting in Mama's lap, looking all drowsy, and she said, "Oh no, I was sweating all night." The bacon was sitting on a plate on a piece of paper towel. Mama had another piece of paper towel in her hands, because all the things that Grandma Sands was telling her were making her hands get all sweaty and disgusting. I got some cereal and bread and bacon and sat at the skinny table with them. I must have interrupted something real important, because as soon as I sat down, Mama acted like I disappeared and started asking Grandma Sands more questions. "Well, what about Kelly Lily Lincoln? I always wondered what she's doing." "Lorna, didn't I write you about that?" Dad kept on talking and kept on hooing and eyeing, and Grandma Sands kept on interrupting breakfast by scaring me and Joy with a laugh. And Mama kept on saying, "Oh, Mama." And she kept on having to get up and get more paper towels to wipe her hands. And most of all, she kept on talking more and more Southern style. They talked about how much trouble people were having with some white people down here, who got married to who, how many kids this one had, how many times that one was in jail, a bunch of boring junk like that. It did not get interesting until I noticed that Mama got real nervous right before she said, "What about you, Mama? Mr. Robert seems like a nice man and all, but..." Grandma gave that laugh. And my spoon flew out of my hand, which is an example of personification, right? Why? Because can spoon jump out of somebody's hand? I don't think so, right? So the author is giving the spoon a human-like trait, like that of the ability of jumping out of somebody's hand. Let's continue. Mama acted like she did not even notice, but without even looking at me, she handed me one of the nasty, soaking wet pieces of paper towel and kept looking at Grandma Sands. Well, I was wondering when we'll get to that, Grandma Sands smiled. We've been good friends since right after y'all left for Flint. Mama was being kind of rude, and she interrupted and said, "Oh, Mama, good friends? What does that mean?" Winona Sands, what is it that's bothering you? Why don't you just say what's on your mind? Mama started wringing the neck of another piece of paper towel. I just don't understand what's going on here. How come I never knew him? Did Daddy know him? Mama said that the last part, like she was dropping a bomb on Grandma Sands. So pause to think for a second. What do you think? First of all, how is Mom reacting to this whole situation? And why do you think that she's obviously uncomfortable talking about this Mr. Robert? So think about the dynamics of the relationship. Think about what kind of relationship Grandma Sands and Mr. Robert may be having, and why that could possibly be bothering Winona. Grandma Sands looked at her for a minute. Winona, things are different from what they were when you left. Nearly everything changes. Your dad's been gone for almost 20 years. Grandma Sands had stopped smiling. Now, Mr. Robert is my dearest friend. Wow. I could see where Byron learned how to say a couple of words and have people think that he said a whole bunch more. Grandma Sands did not yell or scream or anything, but the way that she said those couple of things made everybody who heard it shut their mouths and listen real hard. Even though she only told Mama that Mr. Robert was her friend, it seemed like I heard her also give my mother a real good scolding. Mama pouted and kissed the top of Joy's head. I picked up my spoon and kept eating. This was great. I'd never seen Mama act like a little kid who just got yelled at, but here she was, picking at a piece of paper towel and looking kind of embarrassed. Dad and Byron came in with Mr. Robert. Mr. Robert's gonna walk us over to the lake, show us the best fishing spots for later. Joy, Kenny, you coming? Give this two some time to talk alone. Mama pushed Joy off her lap and we followed the little parade outside. The heat made me and Joy feel like we could not wake up. I did not want to do any walking, but the dirty dogs made me go anyway. The only kid that acted like he was having any fun was Byron. He walked the whole way with Mr. Robert and Dad and laughed and joked with them about every stupid story they told. When we finally got back, I went to sleep under a fan. They were going to force me to go fishing with Byron and Joy the next day, and I knew I needed a ton of rest. I started to think that making Byron spend all of his summer in this heat was more punishment than even a juvenile delinquent like him deserved. But he seemed like he was having a great time. All right, so there was kind of a transition chapter, not a whole lot happening here, but we do learn something about Mama. We know that she's bothered by Mr. Robert. We also know that, we also learned that Byron's kind of adapting quickly, right, to the life in Birmingham. He's not as upset and bothered from being there as we may have expected. So he of the whole family, really, at least of the siblings, he seems to be the one that is having the best time, right? So a lot of things to keep in mind as we go forward with this book, because now we're really getting into the rising action really in towards the climax of the book. Okay, so stay tuned for the next chapter.